why do we have relational, emotional, and psychological issues? So this is a very important topic for all of us. So we suffer, and many times we say, oh, I'm suffering for this problem, or I'm suffering for because that person said to me that thing, or I'm suffering because my mother at that time did this thing to me, or a big trauma that happened to me. So there's so many informations around. We're going to focus more on the model of schema therapy, because I really um, uh, I've been going deep into many different approaches, and I think schema therapy is very simple and very useful to understand what is really happening inside of us. As I was saying to you, I'm not going to repeat what I said in the first part of in the first edition of the event. In this edition, we're going to try to explain a bit more about certain things, and then there are not going to there are not going to be magic solutions for your problems. But as I was saying to you, I'm referring you to close by you. So you're going to have many different possibilities. From September, you hypothetically you could have like five, probably no, four events a day. So in which you can participate, and you can really work on your uh, issues. So what I usually say is this community is helping so many people, so please spread around, because it could help many people. So in order to understand why we are suffering, we would also like to understand who am I? This is a question that we can ask to ourselves. Many times maybe we ask to ourselves. So many times we really identify ourselves with our problems or our feelings, our emotions, and also our behaviors. Many times the people identify us with our behaviors. They see what we do and they judge us regarding what we do. So, but actually, who we really are is really a fraction of who we um, could be, really. And why I'm saying that? Because if we think about our genes are all, the genes are the informations that are really transmitted by generations through generations, uh, and they are stored in our cells. So the genes decide everything regarding our body and how we develop, and even how we die. So uh, these informations are actually infinite. So one time, once the researchers thought that genes, when you had certain kind of genes, that was it. You couldn't change really. That was your who you really were. But actually now we know that our genes, we have much more information in our genes than we thought. So some genes, usually depending on what our experiences, and also about what the experiences of our ancestors and also of our parents were, could be activated or not, or switched off. So if we see there are some twins, homozygotic twins, that are separated and they live different lives. So they have the same genes because they are identical. They have the same genes, but living different experiences in life in different places. Uh, they Researchers can see that some genes are starting uh, to work in a different way. So in maybe one twin they are deactivated, and the other twin, some other genes are activated. So they become always more different. Even if the genes are the same, but the expression of the genes is different. Why I'm saying that? Because when we are in the uterus of our mother, actually this infinite potential starts to decrease. So what happens is that the experiences of our mother um, is already shaping the functioning of the brain and the body of the child. Just to give you an example, uh, the way the mother is eating is giving some information to the fetus in the uterus. And so the brain is already starting to shape in a way that can prepare the child when he will born to survive in in that environment where the mother is living. It's the same thing for anything else. So it could be that the child uh, could be born with a predisposition to save and to save, let's say, um, to become, let's say, obese because maybe it was the body weight was already set the natural body weight was already set up depending on the experiences of the mother. So, or it could be that some traumatic events that the mother is living while she's pregnant can really um, activate certain genes in the child, and they will express in a way to be prepared to a traumatic environment when he will be born. Obviously, so many connections are created between neurons. The neurons are the cells in the brain that send informations and control everything. So control everything that is happening in our body. So many different connections are created depending on what the experiences of the mother are. Um, and also there are studies that show that traumatic experiences can be passed through generations in the genes. So the genes could really transport this information to a child uh, be, before the child is already born. Um, so many connections are created. As I was saying, the brain is already starting to be set up in a way that can really deal with the environment when the child will be born. But then when the child is born, then many other connections in the brain are created. The more the child does experiences, the more these connections are created, the more certain genes are activated and others are switched off. Um, and um, and some connections that are not important are cut off, so cut away. They are not useful, so they start to not work anymore. And so the brain starts to shape in a way depending on the experiences, depending always on the experiences. So the child has some emotional needs that are like answers that the child is asking to the environment, requests that is doing to the environment, depending how the environment is responding. So the relational world is responding, the world that is in relation with the child is responding, um, gives informations to the brain of the child. And so there are actually the needs of the child, the request of the child, and the capacity of the world around to perceive the requests and give a right answer to those requests is a system of exchange of information. And this information is shaping the brain of the child. And the quality of the connections of the brain of the child depends on the quality of the experiences that the child is doing in the life. So, what are these emotional needs, and what are the requests or the question? So, is the world safe? So this is something that when a child is very little is so important. So the need is the need of secure attachment. So safety, stability, nurturance, acceptance. So depending on how the environment will respond to this request of secure attachment, giving satisfaction to that need or not, this will shape the brain of the child in accord with that experience. Another question could be, can I explore it? So can I explore the world and be myself? So autonomy, competence, and sense of identity. Am I free to express what is inside of me? So free to express needs and emotions. Can I be spontaneous and enjoy life? So the need is spontaneity and play. Am I allowed to do anything I want? Realistic limits and self-control. Is the world a fair place? Fairness. Am I coherent? Self-coherence. So there are different needs. These needs are, the studies show that these needs are actually needs of all the children in the world, in a different, also in different cultures. And obviously these requests and the answers that are these requests are done, and then the answers that the child receives from the world around shape the brain. And once the brain is shaped, starts to work in a different way. So starts to elaborate, to actually no, to select certain informations in the world, elaborate those informations, and so in accord with those informations, the child keeps going in a certain direction, behaving in a certain direction, relating to others in a certain way. So where is at this moment the infinite potential that was at the beginning? So the infinite potential is already reduced dramatically. So the infinite potential that we had in our genes is already reduced dramatically. In our genes, in our brain, is already reduced. So we start to differentiate ourselves from the world, and we are shaped by the world in a way that we can say that we replicate the world that we are living in our brain, in our personality. And we develop our personality depending on different kind of experiences. So what happens really is that we reinforce what the world mirrors us back, and we dissociate what the world doesn't mirror back or accept. So what does it mean this? So if I express some joy and I'm punished by the people that are around me, I'm punished for expressing my joy. Let's say that I'm playing, I'm a child, I'm playing, I'm joyful, and my mother or my father are really annoyed by that because they think that I should be calm and I should sit down, and I should not play. Then instead of having mirror back my joy and with someone, another, a significant other that's really in tune with my joy, and adding to my joy also more joy and love, instead of that, I receive punishment, judgment and punishment. At that moment, slowly, what the information is, what the information that I'm receiving is, this is not good, this is bad. So I start to dissociate this part that is actually innate in me, is part of those infinite potential, of that infinite potential. I start to dissociate and bring in a very dark place where I don't, slowly, if these experiences are repeated, I don't really reach that part anymore. And instead of that, I start to develop something else that is related to the experiences, relational experiences that I'm doing with significant others around me. So what I usually say to my clients is that what I say is, for example, studies show that a child is um, innately compassionate. So a very little child has already the seeds of compassion. They have the seeds of compassion. They are altruists, and then slowly they learn to be less altruist. They and slowly, if they don't see this compassion, this altruism reflected back from the others around him, um, the child starts not to feel that anymore and not to be able to express that anymore. But it doesn't mean that it's not there. It means that it's dissociated. The seeds are dissociated. So when a person comes to therapy and he's not compassionate toward himself, it's because he learned that the client learned not to be compassionate toward others or toward himself because of what he lived, because the experiences that were mirrored back were informing him or her that that was not good. And this is valid for any kind of emotional need. So I can be punished for any kind of need I express or any kind of emotion I express, punish or judge, and I can grow up in an environment in which certain things are not accepted or not good, and my brain is shaped, and I start to behave in a certain way to live in that environment, to adjust to that environment. So if my needs are, my requests to the world are answered in a positive way, and I receive what I need, I develop early positive schemas. If the experience that I do are negative, I develop early negative schemas. What are the schemas? The schemas are like networks of neurons. So these networks of neurons start to connect together and work together, and they start to orient me to certain informations in the world, and to elaborate those informations depending on on the experiences that created that network or that schema. So let's say that I was living in a world in which I was punished many times or abused or even psychological abuse. Then I develop a mistrust abuse schema that is like a software that elaborates every experience in an abusive way. So I start to anticipate abuse in relationships, in my experiences, in my life, and I try to cope with those anticipation and with that activation of that schema in order to protect myself. So when I develop maladaptive schemas, usually in order to survive, I develop certain copings, certain behaviors to protect myself. So I develop also a part of myself that is there to try to make me survive to those negative experiences. And so the brain is structured depending on the kind of experiences that we have. The quality of experience we have will create the quality of internal caring we do to ourselves. So it means that if let's say my mother was really caring toward me, very affectionate. My father too was very affectionate, and I tend to be affectionate toward myself, but also toward my children. And not always, but I mean, this is what happened to me. So the quality of caring that I received is the quality of caring that I can give to myself. If I was judged, if I was punished, if I was abused, if I was neglected, that is what I experiences, and that is what shaped my brain and what I'm able to do toward myself and toward others usually. Not always, because there are also some different kind of copings that we are going to talk about. But I already talked about these coping behaviors in the previous edition of the event.